Okay, so welcome to This Week in Web Series. My name is Travis Gordon. I'm the host of the show, but I've also got some great guests today. I've got Chris Greenaway from Venus Spa.
Hey, everybody.
And I've got Louis Roscoe from Frontier Prelude to Justice.
Prelude to Justice.
That's the sequel.
Quite cool, actually.
That's the sequel. It's
That's
Frontier.
entirely in a courtroom in space.
It's Prelude to Darkness.
Hello.
I'm waiting for the Trip in the Rift crossover.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Shipping the Rift. That was a good show.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got some. We sort of want to talk about IAWTV awards. They've already happened. We all had a chance to watch them. And Chris, we're going to do what? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Is that how you'd like to attack this?
I think that's the best way to really sum it up. By the way, I've got my best suits for the event. I wore it while in chat watching the show, and because I wanted to look all nice and pretty. Because well,
it made you feel more a part of the action.
It felt like I feel like I was there, even though I was in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it looks like you're in Vegas right now.
Hey, could be. That would be it.
Well,
kitchen in
Vegas. An
Vegas.
upgrade from the weather we got out here right now. It's about -35 with the wind in Winnipeg right now.
Right. Well, don't you and your dad have a place in Vegas?
Yes, we do. We co-signed on it a while back, and there's a car there, so pretty much whatever I want to do is all I need. I mean, I probably only need a little. If I'm only there for a couple of days, I'd go see David Copperfield or something like that, or Beatles Love or something like that, and have a great time, and then head straight back without really spending a whole lot of money or being in a hotel where I'm forced to play machines because they're everywhere. It's like you're drawn to them if they're in front of you, but you just want to see the shows and just have a good time when you're not. So it's good.
Now either Louis is really still right now, or his video has frozen.
I'm thinking it's frozen.
Well, let's cut to my my default face.
Okay.
There we go. Oh yeah, and we'll come back in. Sorry,
there we go.
Guys.
It's all right.
Okay, but let's get to the IAWTV awards. We'll start with you, Chris, because your video I can see you. Okay, tell me the good. Tell me the positive points of the IAWTV awards.
For me, going into this, remember, the last major award show that was at least streamed live was the 2010 Streamies. I don't count the Indie InterTube Awards and the Indie Soap Awards mainly because the Indie Soap Awards are still not done live. So this has been the Indie InterTube Awards were also on a much smaller scale, and they're just basically Destiny and Shadowbar having some fun. This was a major event and promoted as such. It was the first time since the Streamies that this has happened. So really going in, you can't have the highest expectations in the world based on that. But I'll say this. The good, it was very well organized. It was very streamlined. The presentations and the awards that were lumped together for each one were pretty good. I mean, you could use a little bit of tweaking, but I thought it was well streamlined. The other would be the nominee videos. Tony V from Black Box TV made them, and they were very strong. I would even go as far as say they were probably the best visual presentations of the show. They were better than the sketches, better than any of that stuff. For me, the third thing, of course, was of all the presenters, my personal favorite was the King of the Web winner. I can't remember the guy's name. I feel like a goof for that, but
so the guy with the crown, right? That guy.
The crown and the bathrobe.
Ken Nicholas or something
like that.
He's pretty funny.
But
yeah, he was.
What I really liked about him was he was having a great time being there. He was just happy to be there. He was having a great time, and wasn't being a jerk or anything. He wasn't rubbing anything in anyone's face. He was just being a great, fun guy to have around. And he embodied the spirit, I think, of what Jenny was trying to accomplish when she organized this. And I really think we need more guys like him on that stage, because that was really good. I was really impressed with him.
Okay, and Louis, the positive side of the IAWTV Awards.
Before I start, I will check, am I frozen?
No, we can see
Oh,
you.
you are definitely
good.
very much
Still moving. Good. Along the same lines as what Chris was saying. I thought it was really well set up and organised, and it it felt really grand. Like there was a sort of a real sort of grand sort of feel to everything. I think it was just, I suppose everyone was well dressed, and there was like your music and everything. It was really nice to watch visually. And we had good streaming in New Zealand, other side of the world. There wasn't any point at which anything cut out. It was, so it was good. It was good. What was it, Chris? You were saying the Fine Brothers? They were great. They were funny. There were some really good presenters there, like you're saying with the King of the Web, and So it was a lot of work. You can see that a lot of work really went into that, and it really showed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys. I think it was a great ceremony. It was the first one. It was something to build off of. It moved very nice. It didn't seem too long. I like the speeches were nice and short. It was classy, which is good. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about lots of stuff, but let's move on to what didn't you like, Chris, about the IAWTV Awards?
It was one of those shows that really you can't really put the blame on the organizers in terms of the winners, but it was an all bubble sweep. That I wasn't a fan of. It really felt like just a like we've seen it all before. It's like we all felt like we knew who was going to win, and they did win. And that was I can't say I was happy to see that. There was no surprises. No, I don't think anyone from the international community won anything at all. It was just that I didn't like, and some of the speeches were very snarky. And I thought to myself, man, leave the too cool for school attitude where it belongs in high school, all right? Because some of it really was irking to watch, and some of them just did not learn from 2010 at all. But that was the thing I wasn't a big fan of, and I didn't think the sketches were that good. And like that Thunder guy,
yeah, that didn't quite work.
It didn't seem like they could. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just the fact that we didn't have any musical numbers. Maybe it's that we didn't have. Maybe the fines weren't available for a sketch or something, but I really felt like there was things that could have been put on stage that were better than what we ended up getting in terms of the sketches and the opener. But what was I going to say? I forgot.
No, this is just one of the good things. But who was it? One of the presenters, Grace. I found she had some really good jokes. She was very funny.
She was all right. She wasn't bad. I mean,
the science joke. You two aren't smarter than science. I thought she was really good. Very funny.
The presenters were hot and cold. The only one that I was a little disappointed in was who was with the fines. Because that one looked like the timing was a little bit off. That one I think could have been 10 times greater than it was, but it just feels like something was off. That's all.
Now Lewis is either in deep thought and very still, or we've lost his video again.
I think he's contemplating Dante.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we went to his default pick, and I guess
it's me listening. It's me listening. It's the listening pick.
There we go. And I guess we'll jump right to what are some things you didn't like about the awards, Lewis?
Well, for me, the sound is the biggest letdown for anyone who was watching, who was not there. And I think that has started to, because after the show on the IAWTV Facebook page, you saw a lot of, everyone was really pleased with it, but it was the people who were there. And I think as time went on, you sort of saw comments trickling in from people who weren't there, who had to watch it. The sound was, I don't know if they had a sound mixer and if they did, then you really need to replace whoever that was. It was up, down, left, right. There was no consistency at all to the levels of sound. Some bits were too quiet, you couldn't hear. Some bits were far too loud. I had my hand on the volume control for the duration of the show, compensating for whatever it was they were doing at their end. Numerous times it would just go woof, like really loud, and I had to quickly turn it down, and the wife came in and went, "What the hell's going?" Like it was just, yeah. So there was that. That was a massive. I mean, it's not like you say. It's not the organized. Well, if there was no sound mixer, I guess it's something to do next year.
Yeah.
Get a sound mixer. Get someone watching those levels. The other thing was the chat. Again, this is not their fault. The chat room was just overly spammed. You couldn't
Rooster Teeth.
Really.
Rooster Teeth.
Rooster Teeth. Yeah, Rooster Teeth.
But I'll say that. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say, every second comment it was Rooster Teeth, Rooster Teeth, Rooster Teeth.
But I liked that because they brought their fans. I didn't. Yes. There was a lot of shows. I remember there was a lot of complaints in 2010 about YouTube fans were like Shane Dawson's fans, Phil DeFranco fans were just overloading the chat at that show. In fact, what we got was light compared to that. And what I remember at the time was saying, well, all those other shows, were all those scripted shows fans? Why? The YouTuber fans wouldn't be looking as obnoxious if you guys had your fans with them. So I really think it was a case of I was willing to take that only because they got fans. They've got fans and they want to cheer for their guy. And I was happy to see that, actually. Some of it was a bit obnoxious. I think you're absolutely right about that. And one thing I want to say about the sound was that I remember the 2009 and 2010 streamies, and believe it or not, this is the best and most technically strong show that we have seen in the last 4 years. So that's why I didn't want to get into that too much on my end, only because I've seen worse. I don't think I can't say it sucks if it's getting better.
Well, see,
I suppose I haven't seen that, so for me it was sort of this was the standard. Like the first time I'd sort of gone through about a 3-hour stream show.
Well, I know on my end now. This is a great time, Lewis, to hit video again and get you back in.
All right.
But I found on my end,
speaking of streaming,
I was so frustrated with the sound for the awards. The setup I have on my computer, I couldn't hear at all. I could hear tiny. I couldn't hear words, and I was fiddle farting around. Then finally, I used headphones because I was frustrated, and I went to the IAWTV Facebook forum or group, and I posted how frustrated I was that I couldn't watch the awards. I could watch, I couldn't hear the awards. Anyways, I put headphones on, and then I could barely hear. So that was sort of annoying for me. I went back and watched the recording on the YouTube channel afterwards, and I used some really loud speakers from one of my editing systems, and then I could hear it a bit more. But I think everyone in the room had a good time, and they enjoyed it. But I think for people outside, the streaming wasn't very good. The audio was all over the place, and a lot of us couldn't hear the awards, so it made it hard for us.
I think one thing that I noticed during the show, I watched a little bit more of it later after they reposted it, and the thing that I noticed was people weren't talking into the microphone. I noticed it wasn't until King of the Web guy when things really started rolling in that regard, because he was using that booming baritone voice of his right into that microphone, and all of a sudden it was clear. Everything.
That was the first. That was the first time during the awards I could actually hear someone talk, and I was like, "Thank goodness!" I'm like, he's talking loudly, and he's talking right into the mic, and that's how it should be done.
And he wasn't obnoxious either, which made it even better.
No, he was sort of very much in character as the winner or the king.
Yeah, and he was having a great time. But the thing that I noticed was he was the first one to really talk right into the microphone properly. And I'm wondering if that was a case of them simply not, someone just not telling people that were in the audience that were, if you're up for an award, if you do win, this is how you talk into this particular microphone. Because I'm wondering if that was the case, as much as technical problems.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, these are all teething issues that they'll get past, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Lewis, you've either turned into a spinning circle.
Oh God.
I see the circle.
I'm really, really sorry, guys.
Hey,
That's all right.
see, now we should give the audience a little background. Lewis has hit his cap, and they're squeezing him right now.
It's slowing me down. It's a shocker. New Zealand's very third world when it comes to internet.
Now, Lewis, do you have any more negatives? You mentioned sound.
I had a couple more. They had with the categories. Sometimes they'd have the same person nominated twice. And that doesn't work. I mean, if it's about diversity of nominees, or 5 people have the opportunity to win, then it should be 5 individual people. I mean, not just people are in different shows, and people do great work in all those in shows that they're in. But I think that maybe next year they should have, maybe if you get nominated, you're nominated. You can be nominated once for each category. I mean, that's just me. Just give someone else a chance to potentially be nominated to get into that category, rather than one person being in there twice.
Yeah, but how do you do it? Let's say Chris and I both work with an actress, and we both nominate her for best actress. Who and they both get in. The lady gets in for both shows. How do you decide who gets to go? Because Chris wants her to win for his show. I want her to win for my show. How do you do it?
Yeah, I guess it does.
In my case, I would back off. In my case,
well, thank you.
I'm not being facetious. I'm saying that awards aren't as important as the other stuff when building a project for me. So it's not something that I take a vested interest because I care about the industry, but I'm not overly. Awards don't mean that enough for me to really be all that upset. My concern on it was this was the first really clear example of the so-called LA bubble pretty much just voting for their friends. It didn't look like some people. It looked like block voting, basically, is what it looked like. And from my end, that's why I wasn't impressed with that. It said to me, dude, watch some other shows. Watch other people. Give other shows a chance. Don't make your decision before the categories and the nominees are put in front of you. That's kind of the feeling I got there.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Lewis even joked about it when he won. He said, "I don't even know what one of the shows this is for. They didn't tell me." So, yeah.
Now, Rich M. Barraquette over at Webseries Network had mentioned something today on his site about Felicia Day winning anything she's in, she's going to win. And he's a little, I don't know, he wasn't too big on that.
This one really felt like, in a lot of people's eyes, payback, because she's lost a number of times. Like, Guild had never won a Best Comedy, if I'm not mistaken. It lost to Dr. Horrible, and I don't remember the show it lost to. I think it was... Who did it lose to in 2010? I can't remember. But the sweep looked like it was something that was long overdue, and that people had been waiting for that for a long time. I'm not going to call conspiracy theory on that one, because everyone loves Felicia in this group, and some websites have called it a fraternity. And has she ever lost Best Actress? Never. But you could say the same thing about other generations. Did Kelsey Grammer ever lose? Did Don Adams never lost? Any year that he was eligible, Don Adams actually never lost. I think he won 7 historically. So that it's true in other award shows and other industries.
Cool. Now, either Lewis looks he's
Have I
either
done it again,
petrified.
have I?
He's petrified.
Oh.
There we go. Okay, we got him.
Great to watch once it's all done. It'll be terrible.
Okay, so now I've also mentioned the audio problems. That it was just the whole awards was frustrating for me, and I actually in the Facebook chat in IAWTV I was almost live streaming my frustrations.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
But that, for me, I think the awards went pretty good. Now,
Yeah.
Chris, you said now the ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Before we get to the ugly, I wanted to get one more thing out, and that was the best portal channel nominations. YouTube was a major sponsor, and they weren't nominated at all. And I thought to myself when I saw that this clicks one big middle finger to YouTube, because that's really what it felt like. It looked like a statement. That didn't look like just luck of the draw. That seemed much more deliberate than any of the others.
Yeah.
It was anybody but YouTube attitude, which is sad because they're trying to reach out to us. Jenny's done a great job working with them, and it's probably going to be. We talked about that in the last show that we did. That she's worked very hard with them to help us with YouTube, and they snubbed them, and that was something that it felt that felt like a bit of a punch in the face, punch in the stomach if I was in YouTube's shoes after that.
Now, YouTube, did they submit? I'm sure they submitted to the award.
Oh yes,
right?
they did. They were on. If I'm not mistaken, they were on the original ballot of all the.
Okay.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but was not every single major portal on the web, everything from My Damn Channel to F and Funny, all on this on that ballot initially?
Okay, they probably did. I don't remember seeing that category.
But I do know that YouTube not being there was the most glaring omission of all.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to see more YouTubers in the event.
On the channel.
What's that?
We'll get to the ugly with that.
Oh, okay, all right. Now,
One other thing I was going to say about the bad was it felt quite, and I suppose this is on what sort of with what Chris is saying, it felt quite insular. Like, I think with an international sort of, a supposed, it's International Academy of Web Television, and they're having an event. There could have possibly been more sort of, like, they could have had someone streamed doing a presentation from another country, and I'm not saying me, definitely not with this connection, but, there could have been a more international flavour in the range of people that were behind the mic, also possibly people who were putting together the nomination videos. They were awesome and I loved them, but it would be a really good look to have more of people around the world helping behind the scenes with the show, rather than it just being a group of people in one place, in one area, who are doing it and then saying it's an international event.
yeah,
But that
could have been cool. That could have been cool, like someone from web creators from different countries on their webcams, just sort of live streaming in up on a big screen would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought
Even pre-recorded would have been fine.
Yeah, pre-recorded.
Yeah, even pre-recorded a few minutes before or something, like, so it's at least pseudo live. I mean,
nothing wrong with that.
it's the 21st century. I'm sure we could manage that.
Yeah, we'd have Chris outside in the -40 weather right now, just saying, "Hi guys, I hope you're having. I hope it's nice and warm at the awards."
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Now, Lewis, can you hit your video there again? And now you
see, this is a terrible example of international streaming.
Hey, it's okay. It freezes up.
All right.
We're still getting your audio.
That's
all
good.
right.
That's amazing.
Okay, now Chris, the ugly. We got to get to the ugly.
I have 2 words for you. Kevin Pollak.
Okay.
He was. You know what? I don't know who pushed him on that stage, but whoever it is really needs to be thrown out of the academy entirely. Have we learned nothing from 2010? I mean, this guy looked like he was setting out to burn as many bridges as humanly possible. Sheryl Lazar looked like she was ready to freaking call a restraining order on the guy. It was that bad. And it was just, the guy had no class. He clearly does not want to be in our space. So what the hell is he doing out there? I mean, we have a word for him in Chris Jericho, a fellow Winnipegger, coined this term. That is ass clown. That's what this man was. That's how he acted. That's pretty much all he's shown us in the last 3 years. And frankly, if I never see him on my screen again or on a stage at a major event honoring the web space will be way too soon.
Now, is there something in particular that he said that set you off?
Well, this time it's just the overall rudeness. Last time, the slumming incident, I would have walked up on that stage and slugged him. I've said that 1,000 times. I'd say it again. But this time, it was the overall rudeness, again, to a point where he was creeping out Shira. I mean, it was clear on her face that she was scared of what he might do something.
She actually
rip her off or something. I mean, he looked that creepy.
She actually said getting old when he was complaining about about losing to her or not winning. She actually said, "All right, getting old."
The announcers were getting in on it. It was so bad. You could tell the announcer was trying to reel him in, and he still wouldn't go. And then starts just repeating the same joke that wasn't funny the first time over and over and over, and he just went on and on. And frankly, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, I could go into detail. But
he was funny in Willow.
I tell you what, one thing I absolutely love his Christopher Walken impersonations.
Oh yeah, and Shatner.
And Shatner, love them.
Didn't see that on stage.
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching it, I did sort of get the feeling of it sort of like he was shitting on the community a little. I sort of got that impression. Now, unless that was his aim in a sort of, I don't know, joking way, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I felt that too.
Like, I did find him quite funny at the first, but I think things just sort of went downhill for the last 2/3 of it. And yeah, it wasn't entertaining, and I don't know if they were having tech problems, and I don't know.
It was. It really looked like a big middle finger to all of our faces. I don't know how anyone could have possibly found that anything but tasteless.
I got the same feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, that I don't know if we can top that in terms of the ugly. We started off.
You sort of
we dropped the bomb early.
Well, I know. Like Jenny mentioned that. This is almost like anti-streamies. You know, it's going to be classy. We're going to celebrate the web, and then for Pollock to take shots. You know, it was almost like it was like the streamies again all of a sudden.
But it's not their fault. They can't. I mean, they don't have total control over what the people say once they're out in front of the mic.
Well, the thing with Kevin Pollock is we've seen him do this before, and we've signed up for it the minute you let him on the stage.
Right.
And no matter who's involved, they have to take some responsibility for it. And I have to take the Academy to task for that. That's you guys, you've dropped the ball, man. It's a bad deal.
Well, he's a comedian, so he's going to play against whatever's happening to try to get a laugh. So yeah, it's to be expected the type of joke you're going to get.
But the first
one comment which was I actually thought was really rude that he said was something about awkward silence, and he said to Sheryl Lazar, "You'd be used to that."
Oh,
I thought,
yeah.
Wow, that's really low.
I'm not. I think most would agree that she probably won too many, just because there was so many out there. But that was low. That was way below the belt. I mean. In private company, she probably would have put a shoe through his head. I know I would. Well, and I could fit in those shoes she was wearing.
Well, I know. Watching it, that's when sort of the crowd turned on him, and but I found it interesting to watch him as a professional to lose the crowd, and just how he sort of tried to get the crowd back. And he the guy's a professional comedian. So I just found it interesting. It was very interesting. Pollock was up there.
It was for me, I've said I have a phrase that I've coined over the years, and that's snark is for amateurs. This was about as amateur night as it gets. I mean, the first rule in comedy, for stand-up comedy, is to know your room. If you don't know the room you're playing to, you are going to bomb. You aren't going to get lucky. You're going to, you're walking into the explosion. It's just how much you're going to get burned, how much the others are going to get burned. And
good point.
That's kind of what we got there. And the other rule would be, don't try so hard once you've lost them. I think the minute Shira said getting old, this should have been it. Because she wasn't joking around anymore. And as soon as the person next to you or people around you in that situation are like, this isn't funny anymore.
Well, she'd won what? How many awards did she win? She's got a high, and then he's sort of taking her down. And it's
he was sucker punching her, really.
Let her have her moment, I guess.
I mean, I've been, I can be a little bit, you've seen how I can be a little controversial.
What?
But
what, really?
No.
I can't believe that, Chris. How are you doing? I'm Travis's dad.
Hey, how's it
Nice
going,
to see
Mr.
you guys.
Gordon?
I'm a fan of yours.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Should be on television.
This is better than television.
Not with this face. Maybe with this face.
Hey, you know what? It's really cold in Winnipeg, and I understand why you've got those two fluff bunnies with you out there.
Hey, they're very nice. They're very nice ladies.
They are, yeah.
Very nice people.
Now, Lewis, either you've crazy glued your hand to your chin, and oh, there we go. Okay, so any last thoughts about the awards before we move on to some different subjects and then wrap up the show? Lewis, anything?
My overall thoughts were that it was really well put together. It was really good to see an award show. I didn't get to experience the 2010 Streamies, but I have heard much about it from Chris and you, so I'm assuming that this was a good step in the right direction. I think that it was just really teething problems, things that were probably beyond their control, but just minor things to consider for next time, for next year.
Okay, and Chris, any last thoughts about the awards?
From the presentation was good. I think that's really the one thing they can learn from it in the future. But really, I think the one thing that they need to improve on is actually a couple things. I think they need a bit more. Now they're in a position where they can make it a show, but I think that they need to make it more inclusive. The show was not open to the general public. It should be. Even if you have to charge admission, the public should be able to be there. And I think they need to put the eye back in IAWTV, and no more Kevin Pollak. And that's it. Everything else is cool.
Chris, they need you as a presenter instead of Pollak.
They need the girls from Venus on the stage.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I got a face for radio.
Now, so Lewis, just hit your video there again, but I think you'd mentioned some a point about having more of an international, feeling.
Yeah,
to the show.
yeah. What Chris was, putting the eye in IAWTV. I think I touched on it earlier, where at the beginning of the show, I think Paul Katona said that Truly International represents 16 countries, but they just didn't have an international feel. And there were areas where they could have implemented that. Like I think I was saying to you earlier, I mean, they could have had you set up in your green screen room even, doing presenting from, and just one thing even just would have made it feel all that more international and inclusive of the people around the world that were watching. So.
Yeah, I'm live from Canada, with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I'm live from New Zealand. It's, Lewis, Roscoe, we could be presenters. I think...
Yeah, the only problem is if I was doing it, it would freeze halfway through and the whole show would...
But you'll be there. That's what the bottom line is, right? I mean, making the effort and being there. That's why I didn't get into the technical stuff all that much, because the effort was a great improvement. And I think just being there, you'd be doing something positive. And it's like those video guys in England, we could use that.
Exactly.
There's a series in Spain, or I'm not sure if it's in Spain or from South America, that Webseries Today has been covering. It's a Spanish language show. I mean, why not have them speaking in, especially if they're speaking Spanish, even if it's subtitles or with an interpreter. Let's try to get the rest of the world in it, because really the web is global. It's not just a small cluster of people at a mixer in LA. It's the whole world.
Right.
Yeah, it's very doable and easy to. It would have been easy to put it in there, and it would have just made it would have changed the whole perspective and given it a much more international feel.
Yeah, maybe the next award should have the focus should
That's
be on
idea,
the international, the international side of it. I think that would really, and we then would be getting way more international members.
Right,
I think so too. Yeah,
because right now, I would say the people I've been talking to are on the fence about coming back into the IAWTV. The international people feel we don't feel included. And that would be, if we heard that now, as things ramp up, because they do. As soon as the awards are over, you start planning for the next awards. So if we start hearing there's going to be an international focus, the international members are going to be happy. We're going to stay. And B, you're going to start getting a lot of international members coming in and feeling included, and I think it'll just make the Academy a lot stronger.
Yes, absolutely.
It definitely would.
Okay, so let's move on. We're supportive of the awards. Kick the Streamies butt. It was very classy, and there's a few issues, but I think all three of us are very supportive. But let's move on to now. This is sort of included with the IAWTV Awards because they were sponsors. But the JTS news about Chris, can you brief us on that?
Okay, Shira had them on her show around the same time as the awards were ramping up at CES. And that was JTS, a.k.a. just the story, officially launched with a slate of something like 15 or 20 titles as a pay-per-view entity on the web. It's run by Matthew Arvello. Do you guys know who his partner is? There were two people for this. I know of Arvello, and I know that a number of the shows that he put some money into were on the slate, but that's about as much as I know on that front.
Okay. Okay, and Lewis, just hit your video there again. So, and what do you know about JTS and sort of their business model? What are your thoughts on it? Hello?
Hey?
Oh, Lewis.
Sorry, I thought you were still referring to Chris. From what I gather, it's going to be much like Coldcast, sort of a network of shows.
Yep, but they're going to. I think it's a monthly fee for the audience, $5 or something.
$3.99 a month US, which adjusted for whatever currency that you're using, and I think it's that would end up being like £2 or something like British pounds or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, or like something like €2.50 in euros or something like that. But it would be a little over $4 a month in Canada. Probably about.
And they're playing. And they're playing no ads, so it's just all
Oh, that's sort of
part gimmick, no ads, just the shows. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I looked at the slate of shows they have, and there's a lot of them that just simply aren't active anymore. Out with Dad being with a few that's still sort of around going, and whether Jeff Lewis is going to have new episodes or not, you'd have to ask him. But many of the others are officially no longer with us, so I'm not sure how well it will work, but I do think pay-per-view has a chance, though. And a large portion of that is, my reason for this is Sirius Radio, which is that cable/satellite radio, which is, of course, you pay a monthly fee for that, just like cable. That would never have gotten off the ground if Howard Stern hadn't been the first one to jump. Biggest radio star on the planet, with a very scary, loyal fan base, and he was able to get a good 50% of his audience to sign up, and they paid him ridiculous money, but they made it back the next day with the amount of his audience that bought it. And with that comes a rub of, Stern's there, but you're not just buying Stern. He's only on in the morning 5 days a week, but you get all these other shows the rest of the day. And they use that to promote all their newer radio shows and programs and networks. And it really got the ball rolling. And pay radio was an absolute joke, not even a funny one, before Howard made the jump. And if pay-per-view is going to work, I think you would need a big name like Shane Dawson or a Angry Video Game. Not just a big YouTube star, but someone that has an incredibly loyal fan base. If you can land something like Jeff Lewis will help, but I'm thinking along the lines of something even bigger. And if you can land someone of that caliber, I think pay web series has a chance.
Right.
Also, it would mean, though, that people can see these shows free on other sites. I always get a bit iffy when it comes to sort of pay things online. I suppose that's because I'm perpetually broke being a student, but but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it goes.
And again, you're then competing with something like Netflix, who has 100 movies, like 75 TV shows. The catalog's getting deeper and deeper, and it's like here it's like $8 a month. I don't know. Me personally, until I see it, I'm not huge on that model. I haven't seen it really working. I know Venice does it to some degree, but I sort of think it hurts your show because you're not pushing your show everywhere.
Here's an example of something that isn't pay-per-view, but it's certainly been a traffic driver. Like Venice's biggest problem in terms of growing their audience has been they haven't been able to use YouTube to grow their audience the way they would like. Whereas on the other hand, the Angry Video Game Nerd, aka James Rolfe, has a deal with Screw Attack and Game Trailers. Now, those two deals that he has means that he can't put the new Angry Video Game Nerd episodes on his YouTube channel. But they're paying him good money. But he still gets insane numbers on his YouTube channels, James Nintendo Nerd and Cinemassacre. So what he does is he puts trailers up. They allow him to do that, and he drives the traffic to the new episodes. Right. And it brings them to these new sites. If you can if that's, again, why you need a huge name. Like, I'm not talking about somebody that gets hundreds of thousands of views. I'm talking about people who get millions. Yeah. Like Phil DeFranco's numbers, or even Charles Trippy's numbers, because they get 100,000 comments to go with those 100,000 views. And if you can bring a loyal fan base, but you have to have a presence on free web in order to make pay web work. And that's how you drive traffic. LG15 did it back in the day with various channels that they tried to jump to. The community migrated with them back and forth. Cape Modern was able to pull that off. So I think the pieces are there. It's just no one has put it all together.
Right.
Like, we haven't seen JTS have a strong presence on YouTube. They need one. The one thing is, if these things are all taken off the other channels, you got to have some kind of presence to let fans know this is where we are and this is how it works. If there's new names that you've signed, if you got a new show that's coming, you got to put it out there. Let the public know for free where to find it. And if they can have a presence on all the big portals, they could probably drive some traffic. But that's something that will have to be established, or it's not going to work.
Right. So they gotta sign a superstar, basically.
That, and they've got to really work the community and try to build one. And if those two things will go hand in hand, and I think we'll eventually build a winner. But if you're going to build your own stars, you got to bring somebody. I think you got to bring somebody established in to make it work. Like Joss Whedon's Dr. Horrible, they did things on iTunes, and they made a boatload of money doing that. In fact, I believe it's the top grossing web series of all time, still at this point. But I'm not sure what the actual final numbers were, but they figured out a way to make that work. Well, now Joss Whedon, of course, was in a much higher perch than anyone else, and people could say, yeah, but it was Joss Whedon. In fact, I've said that myself. But if you land him, if you had the exclusive rights to Dr. Horrible 2,
oh yeah,
you would kill. And on top of that, Joss Whedon gave the rub to because of the success of Dr. Horrible to Felicia Day, which was a huge part of the Guild going from popular to huge. And so, that it worked once. I think it can work several times. It's worked in every other industry. I mean, I remember back when HBO started, they were, in the early days of original content, they would put their new shows after whatever big movie that they were premiering that week. And so the rub always seems to rub off well on new content. Now, if the content sucks, they're not going to come back. But this puts your foot in the door and gives them a fighting chance.
Okay. Now, Lewis, just hit your video there again. Let's just wrap up with a quick thoughts on SOPA, and we'll wrap up the show. So, Lewis, what are your feelings?
Any law that benefits big corporations and screws over the little guy, I'm against.
I'm with you.
We had a similar law that they tried to pass in New Zealand last year. No, sorry, the year. No, it was the beginning of last year, and there was a massive, much like what they're doing with on Facebook with this blackout stuff. We had a massive thing over here, and there was massive opposition, and the government eventually backpedaled on it and didn't go through with it. And then when we, I don't know if you know, we had an earthquake in Christchurch last year. Last year, and the government passed this this internet copyright bill through under urgency.
What?
Because of the earthquake. I don't know how it ties in with the earthquake or how it benefits it or whatever, but they got it through using it as an emergency measure. Crazy stuff. And so we now have that in New Zealand. All it does actually is it just gives them the right to cancel your internet if you're caught downloading illegal stuff. There's not any sort of censorship or anything like that on websites, which is what SOPA I believe is more about. But yeah, no, I think it's a bad move. Very sort of stamping out. Censoring the internet is just not a good move.
Now, Chris, you're pro SOPA.
No, I'm not.
Explain your. I'm just teasing.
No, I'm not.
I know, I'm just teasing.
I'm controversial, but I'm not that controversial.
Okay, sorry.
My take on SOPA is this: I've put up with censorship or attempts to censor forever. My show is not for everybody, but you get used to it after a while, and people flagging you and whatnot. But my take on it is this: I'm not afraid of Washington. I'm really not. I'm not afraid of Ottawa. No offense to senators, but really, I don't know how you can justify making felons out of your fans. And the big studios have the most to gain, and I'm sure there's a few others on the undercurrent and on the sidelines that do as well. But I don't know what they can possibly gain from that. And the other thing I have to mention in the United States is most of the states are bankrupt. How are they going to house all these new criminals they're creating? I mean, it seems like out and out insanity, and to do it in an election year. I don't know what they're smoking, but can I have some? 'Cause I just think that this is insane. It almost seems suicidal what politicians are trying to do right now, and I don't get it. None of it makes sense, and I don't know how.
It's the check they're getting from Viacom, which helps, I'm sure.
But that doesn't pay off those $100 trillion debts that everyone's got. I mean, all the states are falling apart to a point where they're basically pauper states now. I don't know how they. But here's the other thing: is how are they going to enforce this? Are you going to come up to Canada and slap the handcuffs on me? Come and get me. I'm a big man. Bring some heavy ammo. You're not man enough to come up here and get me. And it's minus 40 in Winnipeg right now, boy. So Washington, bring your freaking jacket.
Yeah,
and bring your lunch and bring a heater to heat the lunch.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Is you can't touch me. You can't mess with us. You have no right to in the first place. But I'm not afraid of Washington because I think they'll backpedal. It's an election year. The Republicans seem to be DOA right now anyway. And Democrats, Republicans, as far as I'm concerned, they're all the same. But in an election year, are you prepared to try to force a law that will kill you on the first week of November?
Right. Well, I agree with both of you guys. Yeah, to me, it's broken. I think I saw something on Google Plus today where it was Michael Jackson's doctors getting 5 years in jail.
4.
But if you pirate Michael Jackson's songs, you're going to get 6 years in jail through SOPA. What is it?
It was 5 years.
Oh, it's 5 years. Okay.
For uploading, 4 years for the doctor who killed him.
Oh, that's what it was, and it's just
That's insane.
Doesn't make any sense. The law breaks DNS, so it breaks the internet. They don't even know if they can do it. So even if it passes, I don't even know if it can actually work.
Well, the president has made it very clear he's not going to sign it.
Oh,
He's made it abundantly clear. There's neither of these things that they're trying to bring forward, and they need a 60+% majority, a 2/3 majority in Congress to override the president. And by all accounts, they don't seem to have that. Because everyone's afraid of touching this thing right now.
But that's the thing, though. It's almost like what Lewis was saying is the earthquake is look over here, and then they pass the bill.
Smoke and mirrors.
And this is okay, here's SOPA. This is the, it draws all the attention. Then PIPA passes, which is identical to SOPA. It's so close. So it's one of those things where hopefully, one of these things, hopefully they both die. And they come to their common sense. But any more thoughts? I honestly don't think they got the balls to do it. To be honest with you, because they don't know what it is. They don't know how they're going to be able to pull it off. And even if they do, you think that we're all just going to sit here and let it happen? There's going to be alternative ways. People are going to come up with technology to create a new web if they have to. There's going to be alternatives to all of these things. So you know what? They can try, but I guarantee you, I stake my life on this. It will fail, and whoever tried to do it will probably find out the hard way that was not such a smart thing to try to do in an election year. Right. Okay. Well, let's wrap up the show there. I think it was a great show. Lewis, if people want to track you down and ask you a question or ask you some advice, where would they find you?
You can go to YouTube. My channel is Lew82, LEW82.
Okay, and Chris, where can people find you?
2 channels on YouTube, youtube.com/WatchVenusSpa and youtube.com/Chad Media Flicks, Flix. Chad Media Flicks, all one word.
Excellent. And you can find me on YouTube as T-Bone Pearson, Pearson, and on the Twitters at Travis Gordon. So thanks for watching, guys, and thank you, Lewis, and thank you, Chris.
Not a problem.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds good.